Today, we're looking at a blue ink by Noodler's, their North Star Liberator. Now, as always, there's timestamps down below in the description so you can skip around, but it really would help me out for you to check out the entire video. Also, down in the description is a link to a blue playlist, so if you like blue inks, you can take a look at that. If you're a regular viewer, welcome back, and if you're new here, hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Let's get into the first writing sample, 90 GSM Clairfontaine. We have no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is a bit darker than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, some spots of shading, like the X in Fox is a bit darker, the S in Jumps, the Q and the K in Quick, 11 seconds to dry. Medium is just a tad lighter than the extra fine, not as light as the stub. With no feather spread, halo sheen, not bad shading as Quick goes darker to lighter to darker, brown goes darker to lighter. 17 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby for both shows some color variation, which we're getting, and the smear test, I do not think you could recover it if you smeared while you were writing. To have a range of experience with this ink, all the writing samples are done with a Jinhao 159 with a 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a medium, and a Jinhao X750 with an extra fine. Then a Platinum 3776 with a soft fine nib was inked up, used for a day, and used to take the notes for this video. Now let's take a look at 52 GSM Tomoe River. We have no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is just a tad darker than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 16 seconds to dry. The medium is darker than the extra fine, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 34 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both aren't really showing much color variation, we're really not getting it, and the smear test, you could not recover it if you smeared while you were writing. I agree with Vita. There's a lot to learn by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. A line of ink is put down, and then it's put in the water for 10 to 15 seconds. And you see the underlining of where the ink was put down, and it did move up past that, but you did see that it immediately on the edges tried to bond. It moves up and generally is a pretty uniform tone as it's moving up, meaning it's bonding with the paper as it goes, which is very obvious when you look at the second one on the right, where it's allowed to dry for just 10 minutes, and all of that ink has completely bonded with the paper and is not moving at all. I'm expecting some resistance here. The next writing sample is done on 80 GSM Rhodia dot pad. We have no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is a little bit darker than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, some spots of shading, like Fox is definitely darker than the word brown, which brown does go from darker to lighter to darker. The is very dark compared to Quick, 9 seconds to dry. The medium is darker than the extra fine, with no feather spread, halo sheen. It does offer some shading, like brown goes darker to lighter to darker. Dog goes lighter to darker, 16 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show good color variation. It's not too bad in the writing. And the smear test, I don't think you could recover it if you smeared while you were writing. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. The smear is allowed to dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, this is a very safe ink to use in a note-taking situation if you need to go back and highlight, because it does not budge, which, look at the water, it had no effect on it. Just like pen flush, no effect, nothing. 1/3 bleach solution, nothing, not gonna budge. But there is a bright side to all of this, because I didn't have a single problem cleaning this out of my pen with water. So, despite how aggressive it is on the paper, it's not aggressive holding onto your pen. The next writing sample is done on TWSBI notebooks. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, spots of shading. Look at Liberator, little darker, lighter, darker. That's an alarm going off. 8 seconds to dry. The medium is about the same tone as the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, decent shading. Brown goes darker to lighter to darker. Fox goes light to dark. Jumps goes light to dark. 11 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both shows some color variation, which we're getting. And the smear test, unfortunately for the note takers, I don't think if you smeared, you could recover it. For the inks tested, the average viscosity was 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Noodler's North Star Liberator has a viscosity of 2.21, making it normal. There's a link to a video down in the description about how the viscosity is tested and how the bell curve's made. Now let's take a look at Monokaki paper. We have no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is a little bit darker than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, some spots of shading going on. Quick goes darker to lighter to darker. The is much darker than the word, over. 9 seconds to dry. Medium is about the same tone as the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, some shading. Look at how dark Fox is compared to everything around it. Now Jumps goes lighter to darker. 13 seconds to dry. The scrubby medium doesn't show a ton of variation, and it's not real obvious and jump out down here, but it is there. The extra fine shows it and we get it, and the smear test still, if you smear while you're writing, you're probably not going to recover it. For the inks tested, the average dry time was 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Noodler's North Star Liberator has an average dry time of 17 seconds, making it not just normal, but average. The last writing sample is done on Leuchtturm 1917 paper. We have no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is darker than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, only some spots of shading. Over is quite a bit lighter than the word the. The is quite a bit darker than the word brown. 9 seconds to dry. Medium is much darker on the paper with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. 12 seconds to dry. The medium shows almost no color variation. We really didn't get it. The extra fine shows some, and there is a little up there. And the smear test, you probably cannot recover it if you smear while you're writing. Instead of finding inks that look like Noodler's North Star Liberator, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I decided to go with a nice magenta from Callifolio Andrinople. If you'd prefer a different complement color, there's links to the color playlist down in the description. So what do I think of Noodler's North Star Liberator? I've been enjoying this tone variation that I'm getting. There is some decent shading. As a lighter tone, I don't find this to be too light to comfortably read. And being a light blue that's so permanent, it's kind of interesting. I need to use this more, I think. So what nib and pen give the best writing experience with this ink? I found that with wet pens, this ink had a tendency to spread on most papers as you write with it. But on a medium to dry flow pen, especially a fine, it works really well and looks great on the page. I hope you got something out of this video, and tomorrow we're going to take a look at Schaefer Black, so I'll see you then.